you got to set some boundaries, right? Otherwise, you will be burnt out. You will be going off on your family. You will be exhausted, right? And it is no fun, working and all of a sudden body parts start just reacting, right? That's scary. And so, yeah, I told you I was gonna be honest on here. So you have to make sure that you are aware of what your body is saying to you. Hello there. This is From Chaos to Clarity, Unleash Your Business Potential. I am your host, Sonia Jones, CEO of GIP Financials, your Mr. Miyagi of Money. And look, today we are going to talk about boundaries, right? Because when we talked about before, we talked about mindset, and we have to get what my coach, Pastor Sean Strickland, talks about the ick, right? You got to get the money ick, those thoughts out of your head, kind of like a clogged pipe, right? So the sludge inside the pipe is like all of your negative thinking, right? And past behaviors and triggers and all that stuff like that. So we need some Drano to get all that gunk out. And one of the ways that we do that is through boundaries. So I'm going to be 150% honest here because I'm still growing and becoming in a lot of these areas. But I feel like for the sake of this podcast, y'all got to kind of see it in progress. Because sometimes when we go through things as entrepreneurs, we think that we're the only ones going through it. Well, child, I'm going to tell you that your girl is still working on this. And see, I need to have my team on here because my team will hold me accountable. And they're like, why are you talking about this? Why are you talking about this? Because you hard headed. I'm still going to talk about it anyway. All right. So, just a couple of things about boundaries. One, the whole purpose of boundaries really is to communicate your values and to make sure to protect your peace, right? Your boundaries are your shield, right? So if you value your health, for example, right, there's going to be certain things you probably won't eat, or a certain time that you probably will stop eating altogether, diet, things like that, right? So those are just some basic examples of boundaries, but in the form of entrepreneurship. And I'm definitely here to let you know, from working a 9 to 5 and trying to run a business to now being a full-time entrepreneur, you got to set some boundaries, right? Otherwise, you will be burnt out. You will be going off on your family. You will be exhausted, right? And it is no fun, working and all of a sudden body parts start just reacting, right? That's scary. And so, yeah, I told you I was gonna be honest on here. So you have to make sure that you are aware of what your body is saying to you, what folks around you are saying. Right? So if your spouse notices some things, it might just be as a result of you not setting boundaries in your workspace. Now I'm really telling on myself. Right? So I wanted to talk to you about, I have 5 ways that you can think about setting boundaries. And these are kind of some of the things that I'm currently going through, some of the things I feel like I've kind of taken a hold of successfully, and then some of the things that I've experienced with some of my clients. So, first is set working hours, right? This is still in development for me, but one of the things that I have taken advantage of, especially on the weekends, is scheduling text and emails. Okay. So, especially with Gmail, because I tend to work on the weekends sometimes. And when I do work on the weekends, to keep my clients from responding back to me on the weekends, because if I send emails on the weekends, right? How you date people is how you got to marry them, right? So if I'm sending, clients emails on over the weekend, then 9 times out of 10, they're going to assume that Sonya is available all the time. So what I always tell my team is that if you see an email from me scheduled for 8 a.m., there's a 99.9% chance that I was working on it the night before, or maybe earlier that morning before, which are poor boundaries. They're poor. You got to go night night. You got to go to bed. Okay. So set working hours. Your family will appreciate you for that as well. Okay. Next, financial boundaries. Okay, especially with your business. Business, we got to set a budget, right? You have to be aware of what's coming in and coming out of your business, so you know how much you can pay yourself. So you'll know how much you have in order to cover your business expenses, payroll, things of that magnitude, right? If you already set your budget, try to make sure to include, if you can, some of those like conferences and stuff that you may want to go to, because there might be some things where I had to say I can't go to that this month. As appealing as it may be, I'm gonna have to pass because I already, you know, got some obligations and things like that. And you want to protect your cash flow, right? But you can always plan for those things. Next is prioritizing task, right? I try to between, it would depend, really depends on when I go to bed, but the night before or in the morning, as soon as I drop Tyler off, I try to go through my day and see what I have. But what I also do on my calendar with certain events or the type of event it is color coded. So all of my weekly check-ins with my team, those events are purple. If it's a client meeting, it's gray. If it's a professional development or a coaching for me, it's yellow. If it's a discovery call, it's green. So those are just things for me that kind of help me, because if I need to reschedule something, then I can kind of tell, like, depending on how much brain power it's going to take from me, that I can adjust it depending on the event. I need to put it before or put it after and stuff like that. So prioritize your task. Next, learn to say no. And I'm going to talk about a boundary that we probably don't hear about often, and it's really client behavior. Okay, not saying that my clients have done this, but it needs to be addressed, especially if you have a team, right? Because you have to let your clients know that they cannot talk to your team, any type of way, right? So I'll say, for example, now this has happened previously where maybe I may have met, someone at an event, and we do a discovery call, right? And maybe all they've seen, or the only person that they've seen is me, right? And say that I have one of the staff accountants email them, right? I'll give you even better example. Say after the discovery call and they want to do monthly bookkeeping. So with our monthly bookkeeping systems, every client is assigned to a staff accountant, right? So I do a formal email, make sure that they all, get to know each other. What I'll try to do, if time allows, is for us to just all have a three-way type of powwow. But within that, after that, I try to, separate myself so the client and the staff accountant can interact. There have been some instances where a client may receive an email from a staff accountant. And part of our protocol is, depending on the nature of the conversation, that they'll CC me on it. Um, and then the client will reply back, but only reply back to me. And so it's up to me to have to reset that expectation with the client, that your primary contact is your staff accountant, right? Because once you start And this is a boundary for me because one of my boundaries going into 2024 is making myself less accessible. So I'm really having to, you know, kind of nudge my team, out in the open. But in order for me to do that successfully, next year I'm going to have to reset boundaries with all of our clients just to let them know this is what this behavior, looks like. What good communication with GIP teammates looks like, stuff like that. So that's my job to make sure that my teammates feel successful, right? And to make sure our clients uh, feel supported. So, yes, make sure you learn to say no and also be thinking about like your core values and your vision and your mission and stuff like that, right? Because you don't want clients that misrepresent your brand. So, don't be afraid to disengage with clients who um, misrepresent your brand. Now, I will also say this: hopefully your intake process will help you kind of, you know, filter that. Yeah. So your intake process should let you know clients that are best fit uh, for your services, especially the services that require access to you as the CEO, right? So that's very important. Okay. And then last but certainly not least, digital detox. Okay. So for me, I do not have any notifications on my phone. I do not do push notifications on my phone because when I'm focused on a task, it's easier for me to just put my phone on vibrate or silent and just put it away. you know those push notifications, especially when I was working at my school, those push notifications were coming all the time, and I think that was one of the things that kind of kept me anxious because it was always something all the time, right? So one of the things that I did right after I left my job, I turned off all of the notifications and I put certain, individuals in my favorites. So if by chance, if they do need access to me, they can get access to me. But what that looks like, instead of a push notification, I can just pick up my phone, swipe it down, and kind of see where people have texted me and stuff like that. I don't even have my email notifications. Like when I swipe down, the only things that I see are like when people have called me and maybe text notifications. I believe that's it. Maybe with the exception of like, home apps like for the alarm and stuff like that. But no email, no social media, none of that. I don't get those notifications until I'm actually inside of those apps. So that helps me. But especially as an entrepreneur, right? That social media and that internet is something. So you got to protect your eye gates and your ear gates. You don't want to be, comparing yourself, because if you're already in a rut, maybe if you had, a bad day with a client or something like that, and then you see something on the internet that might set you off, you don't want to do that to yourself, right? We got to take care of ourselves, CEOs, right? Because we are an asset, okay? And so that is what I have for boundaries. So I hope that this has helped you, right? So remember, if your brain is the pipe, we gotta get all that gunk out of there, that ick. So the boundaries are kind of like the Drano to kind of help get this stuff out of there, right? So keep going, entrepreneurs. I know the journey can be, challenging. I know sometimes you be like, man, bump all this, I probably won't go back to my job and get some benefits. Sometimes it be like that, child. Sometimes it be like that. But at the end of the day, God gave you this assignment. And there are people out there, there are some percentage of the 8 billion people on the planet that are looking for you to solve their problem. So, with that being said, keep going. Again, this is from Chaos to Clarity. Unleash your business potential. Sonia Jones. I will see you on the next episode. Take care, y'all.